The story kicks off with Sakani Doji, a 16-year-old boy who looks exhausted, sitting in class as he has already lost the will to question life. Next to him is the new transfer student Onigoroshi-san, also 16, a cute but terrifying girl with horns, an eye patch, and enough demon energy to turn an ordinary classroom into a cursed boss stage. It's revealed that they are already dating, even though it sounds weird, and Pookie MC agrees because bro clearly knows this relationship did not start normally. He looks less like a boyfriend and more like someone who clicked the wrong option in a horror game. The truth is even crazier. Yesterday, after school, Sakani was called outside, and before he could understand anything, Onigoroshi used a sharp object to force him into dating her. Most rom-com protagonists get a love letter. Sakani got threatened into a relationship speedrun. Now he decides that his only chance is to observe her. Every move, every sound, every reaction. He activates full detective mode and stares at her like he is collecting monster data. But the scary demon girl immediately starts breaking down. Her face turns red, her body trembles, and her heart goes wild like a romance alarm. Sakani pretends everything is normal, while secretly writing notes. Onigoroshi notices his stare and gets embarrassed, thinking something weird might be on her face. Sakani silently agrees that, yes, there is definitely a lot of weird stuff going on. He asks whether all those accessories are some kind of fashion trend, and Onigoroshi suddenly treats it like a dating privilege. Since they are now a couple, she decides he can look as much as he wants, but then she puts on a scary mask and proudly acts like she is immune to embarrassment now. Then MC tries a normal boyfriend move for once. He places a drink on her desk and offers to drink together. Onigoroshi instantly panics like he just handed her a suspicious potion from a dungeon chest. She has never experienced something this casual before, so her brain jumps straight to poison, traps, and childhood trauma. Sakani is left wondering what kind of harsh environment created these trust issues. He calmly drinks first to prove it is safe. She gets excited, thanks him, and takes her first sip like this is a legendary romance event. But the second the carbonation hits her mouth, her whole system crashes. She gets blasted backward in pure confusion, like the soda just used a special attack. She feels betrayed and calls it a cruel trick, even though it was literally just a normal carbonated drink. He even apologizes after realizing her weakness. But our hottie decides she must repay the favor. Then, out of nowhere, she pulls out a creepy little doll. Sakani freezes because this relationship just went from awkward romance to supernatural crime evidence in 3 seconds. She adds Sakani's hair to it and starts poking the doll. The effect is immediate, but instead of Sakani, it affects her. Dumbo just used her own hair. Later in class, Sakani still thinks about that suspicious doll and wonders who Onigoroshi really is. During English class, he quietly asks if she has more strange abilities. But the moment he calls her skill impressive, she lights up like someone finally pressed the praise button. She gets so excited that she immediately tries to demonstrate one of her secret techniques in the middle of class. Sakani tries to stop her because they are literally in a lesson, but Onigoroshi is already powering up like a demon schoolgirl about to launch a forbidden art. Before she can complete the move, the teacher appears behind her with terrifying timing and shuts the whole performance down instantly. Onigoroshi apologizes on the spot, completely defeated. After the class, Sakani opened his bag after school and pulled out his precious limited edition Akubi-tan chibi plush. He stares at the tiny cute doll with a soft, genuine smile, letting all the day's stress melt away for a brief moment. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi quietly sticks something on the classroom wall. When Sakani glances over, he finally gets a proper look at her Oni mask up close. It is genuinely terrifying. Horror happens to be his biggest weakness, and this mask hits him like a jump scare. He asks her to stay still so he can inspect it. Onigoroshi freezes nervously and wonders what he is doing. As he leans in closer, his focus completely derails. Instead of the scary mask, he blurts out that she looks unbelievably cute. Onigoroshi turns bright red and starts slapping him lightly in pure embarrassment while denying it. The more she panics, the cuter she becomes in his eyes. Later, she suddenly gets serious as if Sakani is actually an Oni. He flatly denies it. She sighs in relief as his face looks extremely vicious, which makes him question her sense of compliments. She then drops a bomb. If she ever dated a real Oni, her family would publicly display her severed head. Sakani feels chills, realizing her clan treats dating like a death sentence. To be sure he is human, Onigoroshi demands proof by inspecting his underwear. She explains that real Oni have worn tiger-striped underwear since ancient times. Sakani turns pale and immediately refuses, not because he is an Oni, but because he is wearing his favorite Ohakubi-tan anime boxers. Onigoroshi gasps dramatically. In her mind, his refusal is all the confirmation she needs. Sakani tries desperately to explain, but logic has already vanished. With full gremlin energy, she reaches under her skirt again and pulls out another hidden weapon. She declares that if he refuses to cooperate, she will verify his identity herself and cut him down in one slash. Sakane is no longer scared of the blade. At this point, he is far more shocked by the endless inventory system hidden under her skirt. Suddenly, Onigoroshi charges at him with her weapon. Sakane barely has time to react before she charges at him with terrifying speed. In a panic, he yanks out the plushie like a shield. She stops mid-swing, completely confused by the strange object in his hands. Sakane nervously explains that this is his precious Hakubitan, the healer of his soul. Onigoroshi tilts her head, still processing what this weird creature is. Then something switches in her brain. She suddenly decides this is a present meant for her to celebrate them sitting next to each other. With sparkling excitement, she snatches the plushie and hugs it tightly against her chest. Her face turns bright red as she mumbles that it is such an underhanded attempt to appease her. Despite her tsundere complaints, she clearly loves the gift. Even though Sakane Duji may be an oni in the flesh, she has decided to hold him as the object of her hopes and dreams. Sakane stands there speechless, watching this chaotic girl hug his plushie while blushing furiously. Her embarrassment quickly reaches critical levels. She starts spinning around in a strange, frantic little dance while clutching the doll, her horns and hair flying everywhere. Sakane watches in pure confusion and asks what kind of dance that even is. She becomes even more flustered from the mix of excitement and shyness. The story briefly shifts to Sakane's painful middle school memories. Back then, he once gathered the courage to confess to a girl, only to overhear people immediately rejecting the idea because of his scary-looking face. 3 years later, Sakane officially leaves those miserable middle school days behind and starts his first year of high school. He never expected that someone like him would suddenly end up with a girlfriend. Yet somehow, against all logic, that exact thing happens. As he walks through school, Onigoroshi suddenly sneaks up behind him and covers his eyes from behind while telling him to guess who it is. Unfortunately, she squeezes with too much force. Sakane immediately recognizes her and politely asks her to apply less pressure to his entire skull. At the same time, he reminds himself that despite dating her, he still knows almost nothing about Onigoroshi. That is exactly why he continues observing her so carefully. She then mischievously asks if he is really certain it is her. After he confidently confirms his answer several times, she dramatically slips around in front of him and proudly reveals that it was indeed her all along. She acts as though she just performed the greatest plot twist in human history. Sakane quietly continues his investigation into this mysterious girl while she becomes ridiculously excited over the whole interaction. Apparently, she heard that this is how lovers in the human world play around with each other, and now she is completely fascinated by it. Sakane agrees, and she instantly covers his eyes again with sparkling enthusiasm. This time, before she can even finish asking, he calmly answers with complete confidence. Onigoroshi keeps asking if he is really sure it is her, repeating the question with sparkling excitement like she desperately wants him to fail some hidden relationship test. Sakane finally gets tired of it and asks how many times she plans to repeat the same thing. After calming down a little, she shyly admits there is something she has always wanted to do with the person she dates. While fidgeting nervously and building up courage, she suddenly calls him darling in the softest voice imaginable. The moment the word leaves her mouth, she nearly combusts from embarrassment on the spot. Poor Sakane instantly panics and tries to stop her, but Onigoroshi cuts him off and boldly demands that he call her honey instead. She insists that this is what fashionable lovers in the human world apparently call each other. Sakane becomes more worried about whoever taught her such terrible romance advice than the nickname itself. Even though she dramatically gives up after he refuses, Sakane absent-mindedly repeats the word to himself for a moment. That single word completely destroys her composure. Her face turns bright red, she starts panicking, and she loudly declares the whole thing oni-mazingly embarrassing before desperately trying to bury the topic forever. Meanwhile, Sakane is left wondering why she is the one taking critical damage from her own attack. Later, while washing his hands alone, he quietly pulls out his treasured Chiba Special Limited Edition teddy bear handkerchief. Despite his naturally scary appearance, he immediately relaxes inside just from touching it, proudly thinking about how it heals his soul every time he uses it. Unfortunately, the peaceful moment does not last long. Just as he thinks the embarrassment is finally over, someone suddenly covers his eyes from behind and cheerfully tells him to guess who it is. He instantly recognizes the culprit as Onigoroshi-san without hesitation. The only problem is that they are currently standing inside the boys' bathroom. She awkwardly tries to deny it in a suspiciously forced voice, but while she keeps pressing against his face, the nearby boys stare at the horrifying scene in complete shock. Meanwhile, Sakaini can only complain that she is crushing his eyeballs again. Later, while grabbing a drink from the vending machine, Sakaini catches Onigoroshi secretly sticking something onto the wall once more. The moment she notices him looking, she immediately tries to escape like a criminal caught in 4K. When he demands an explanation, she proudly announces that she is hunting Oni. Then, with dramatic timing, she pulls another mysterious object from beneath her skirt and introduces it as a special Onafuda charm infused with the secret arts of the Onigoroshi school. According to her, these charms react whenever they touch an Oni and can halt, burn, or destroy them while also protecting the surrounding area. Sakaini listens to the explanation, but his brain is focused on one far more important question: exactly how much storage space is hidden in that skirt? As she demonstrates how to place the charm on the wall, Sakaini quietly sneaks closer and decides to copy her Guess Who prank as revenge. Unfortunately, his timing could not have been worse. The exact moment he reaches forward, she suddenly stands up, causing his hand to land somewhere it absolutely should not. Both of them freeze instantly. Sakaini panics even harder and starts apologizing at lightning speed while internally screaming that this misunderstanding is definitely going to get him executed by the Onigoroshi clan. After the accidental incident, Onigoroshi silently walks away without saying a word. When he nervously calls out to her, he notices that her face has completely shut down like a malfunctioning robot. Later during class, she quietly admits that she cannot remember anything from the previous break period at all. Sakaini desperately tries to act normal, but his face turns completely red from panic, making him look guiltier than humanly possible. Then Onigoroshi calmly points out that his scary face does not seem very scary anymore. After looking at him more closely, she admits that he actually has a surprisingly cute expression. Poor Sakaini nearly flatlines after hearing that, because it is the first time in his entire life that anyone has called him cute instead of terrifying. Unfortunately, she immediately ruins the moment by comparing him to a cute little devil. Still completely flustered, Sakaini suddenly covers her eyes from behind and repeats her favorite little game by asking her to guess who. The moment he does that, all of Onigoroshi's forgotten memories instantly come rushing back. The scene opens with Onigoroshi standing dramatically at the tip of a mountain in her true form. Wind blows violently around her while she points her sword forward and declares that the Oni has finally revealed itself. She charges straight toward her enemy while shouting that no Oni shall be allowed to live. In reality, she is asleep in class. Meanwhile, Sakaini quietly watches his sleeping girlfriend as she smiles happily and mutters suspicious things in her sleep. Even after dating her, he still barely understands anything about Onigoroshi-san, which is exactly why he keeps observing her so carefully every day. At this point, he honestly feels like she might eventually become a bigger problem than the Oni themselves. Right in the middle of class, the teacher suddenly calls on her to answer the next question. Panicking, Sakaini quickly folds a tiny paper airplane with "Wake Up" written on it and launches it toward her desk like it is a life-saving mission. She instantly wakes up as if she is still in the middle of battle and almost draws her sword on reflex. The teacher mistakes her panic for enthusiasm and happily praises her energetic response before asking for the answer. Completely embarrassed, she quietly admits that she was not paying attention. Then, after the teacher asks her to speak louder, she honestly confesses that she had been sleeping. After nearly entering combat mode in the middle of class, her sword gets confiscated for violating school rules. She immediately looks spiritually defeated, as if her entire bloodline has been dishonored. Once things calm down, Sakaini asks what she was even dreaming about. With a cheerful smile, she explains that she was reliving the moment she sliced off the neck of a boss-level Oni during an intense battle last month. The weirdest part is how sweetly she talks about decapitation. He realizes this girl can casually describe horrifying violence while looking like an angel straight out of heaven. At that point, he decides simple observation is no longer enough, so he asks where she lived before transferring here. She casually shares that she spent 16 years living deep in the mountains before finally defeating a powerful Oni and achieving her lifelong dream of becoming a normal high school girl. Unfortunately, Sakaini immediately concludes she is nowhere near normal. Trying to steer the conversation towards something less terrifying, he asks what kind of food she likes. After thinking for a moment, she shyly admits that she absolutely loves sweets, because she barely got to eat any while growing up in the mountains. The moment Sakaini hears that, he quietly pulls out a box of strawberry chocolates from his bag. She stares at it with sparkling eyes like she just witnessed a divine artifact descending from the heavens. Thrifted Hero snaps the chocolate in half and offers it to her. Cutie treats it like some legendary forbidden treasure. Her eyes sparkle, her body trembles, and she starts clutching the chocolate as it descends straight from heaven. Meanwhile, Sakaini just stands there, wondering what kind of survival lifestyle she lived before transferring here. Just as she finally gathers the courage to eat the rest, the teacher suddenly appears out of nowhere and confiscates the sweets with terrifying efficiency. Onigoroshi-san immediately enters full mourning mode. Then, the two get assigned punishment duty and are forced to carry giant stacks of books to the staff room. But while carrying them, Onigoroshi's brain remains completely occupied by the stolen sweets. Sakaini watches her quietly and starts wondering again why this mysterious girl confessed to him in the first place, and right as he gets lost in thought, he accidentally bumps into another girl on the stairs. The books explode everywhere across the steps. Our heroine suddenly takes off at absurd speed like Captain Marvel. Sakaini barely manages to blink before she starts catching every single falling book mid-air, and while doing all that, she somehow pulls another strange object out from under her skirt again. Using another Onigoroshi school secret art, she rapidly sorts the books by subject with ridiculous precision, all while still carrying her original stack in one hand without dropping a single one. Then, immediately after showing off, she suddenly hugs Sakaini and demands praise with sparkling eyes. The surprise attack completely throws him off balance, and naturally, every single book crashes onto the floor again. After classes end, Sakaini notices her covering herself and the classroom with weird purification stickers. The entire scene looks less like spiritual cleansing and more like a low-budget exorcism gone wrong. When Sakaini nervously wonders what she is doing, she sadly replies that today's constant failures are obviously the result of a powerful curse left behind by the Oni, whose neck she sliced off last month. Sakaini decides it is probably healthier for his sanity not to unpack any part of that statement. Instead, while she looks depressed, he awkwardly invites her to go eat sweets together next time since he knows a really good place nearby. But then she suddenly stands up dramatically and announces that the purification ritual is complete. Right at that exact moment, the teacher calmly orders them to clean everything before leaving. Onigoroshi-san immediately blames the curse again. The next morning, Sakaini walks to school under absolutely miserable rain clouds while fighting for his life against the humidity. His normally sharp hair has transformed into a giant curly disaster, making him look even scarier than usual, and nearby students panic the moment they see him. While aggressively trying to flatten his hair back down, he suddenly hears Onigoroshi greeting him from behind. She is completely soaked, absolute disaster state. According to her, this weather is incredible. Ever since moving here, she has never experienced rain this exciting before. Meanwhile, Sakaini stands there questioning reality because the storm feels less like weather and more like a natural disaster. The two of them honestly seem to be living in completely different climates. Then Onigoroshi suddenly shakes herself violently like a wet dog, spraying water everywhere. Still, after hearing her strangely passionate speech about rain being a blessing from the earth itself, Sakaini starts wondering if maybe he should try seeing things more positively too. And then lightning flashes across the sky. The moment thunder rumbles afterward, she instantly freezes. Her expression completely changes. Just seconds ago, she was praising the storm like nature's greatest gift, but now she quietly moves closer while nervously muttering that this weather might actually be the worst thing ever. Meanwhile, inside the classroom, Onigoroshi tries drying herself off while still completely drenched from the rain. Seeing her like that, Sakaini reluctantly reaches into his bag and offers her a towel, then immediately regrets it because the towel happens to be his personal limited edition Hakubi-tan towel. The moment she gratefully reaches for it, Sakaini panics and snatches it back like his soul just left his body. She quietly lowers her eyes after that, genuinely looking hurt while blaming the rain for getting into them. At that point, Sakaini internally dies from guilt. Unable to handle making her cry, he hurriedly gives the towel back while desperately clarifying that the problem is definitely not her. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi happily rubs the fluffy towel against her face while admiring how soft it feels. A few seconds later, she sneezes from the cold rain, so Sakaini offers her tissues too, and once again instantly regrets it because naturally the tissue case is also part of his hidden Hakubi-tan collection. The cycle repeats perfectly. He offers it, she politely accepts it, and he panics and snatches it back. At this point, Bro is fighting harder against his own hobbies than against any Oni. Then, while Onigoroshi prepares to sneeze again, Sakaini suddenly snaps. Before she can react, he awkwardly leans in and wipes her nose himself instead. The classroom atmosphere instantly enters critical damage territory while Sakaini's brain screams at itself over what he is even doing anymore. A little later, she returns wearing his spare gym clothes instead of her soaked uniform. Bro nearly takes psychic damage from how unfairly good she looks in them. Meanwhile, she sincerely apologizes for borrowing his clothes, while Sakaini desperately struggles to act normal, despite internally exploding. Later in class, SH suddenly decides that drying her uniform normally is for weaklings. She pulls another strange talisman from beneath her secret pocket and activates one of the Onigoroshi school's 108 secret arts. A second later, Sakaine watches her literally breathe fire onto her wet uniform like a low-budget dragon. The problem is that she is absolutely terrible at controlling it. Either the flames do nothing, or she almost burns the entire classroom down. According to her, using full power would instantly turn the school into a barbecue incident. Sakaine just stands there wondering how this girl is somehow losing a battle against wet clothes. Then lightning flashes outside again, and instantly the fearless fire-breathing Oni hunter completely folds. The second thunder hits. She jumps straight onto Sakaine and clings to him like a terrified cat. Apparently, she believes storms are how Oni hunt people. Rain first, thunder second, death afterward. Meanwhile, the entire classroom watches them in silence while Sakaine takes critical emotional damage. She is way too close, her wet hair smells nice, and his brain is overheating harder than her fire magic. Then she quietly begs him not to let the Oni eat her, and Sakaine accidentally pats her head without thinking. Instantly afterward, his heart starts beating like he accidentally unlocked a romance route. Another loud thunderclap scares her so badly that she crashes straight into him and grabs onto his suit for dear life. Unfortunately, the impact is strong enough to pop open a few of his buttons, something straight out of a dramatic shoujo manga scene. Onigoroshi instantly freezes, points at him, and panics, convinced he is revealing his hidden Oni form. Meanwhile, poor lad is literally getting crushed underneath her while wondering what kind of battle she thinks they are fighting right now. He is struggling just to breathe while she treats the whole situation like a final boss encounter. Later, school ends, but the rain still refuses to stop. Sakaine opens his umbrella and awkwardly offers to share it with Onigoroshi, but unlike earlier, she suddenly loves the rain again and immediately runs straight into the storm while splashing through puddles like an excited child. Apparently, rain only becomes evil when thunder is involved. She happily waves goodbye while running off at full speed, leaving Sakaine standing there wondering if she is actually part dog. Then the next day arrives, still raining. Sakaine sits in class mentally preparing himself for whatever nonsense Onigoroshi is about to create today. He even assumes she must be completely soaked again, only for her to suddenly appear behind him out of nowhere like a horror game NPC, and somehow she is wearing a swimsuit. According to her logic, swimsuits are literally designed to get wet, making them the ultimate anti-rain technology. Sakaine instantly loses the will to argue with reality anymore and simply tells her to please change clothes immediately. Thankfully, this time Bro came prepared. Expecting another weather-related disaster, he proudly pulls out a bath towel he specifically brought from home for her. The moment Onigoroshi touches the soft towel, she looks completely happy, as if a simple fluffy towel is enough to defeat her emotionally. But before Sakaine can explain how to use it properly, she wraps the whole thing around herself like she is relaxing at a hot spring instead. At this point, even the rain has probably stopped questioning her decisions. The scene shifts to Onigoroshi randomly doing crunches in the middle of class, while Sakaine holds her legs down like this is a gym training arc instead of lunch break. Completely out of nowhere, she suddenly blurts out that she has absolutely no friends. Meanwhile, Sakaine instantly replies that he does not have any either. Bro really responded with same problem without even hesitating. The two of them somehow create their own strange little world in the classroom, while everyone else quietly watches from a safe distance. After finishing an absurd number of crunches, she sadly admits that ever since transferring here, nobody has tried talking to her or becoming friends with her. Sakaine gently points out that doing mysterious mountain training exercises during breaks probably is not helping her social life much. But apparently, her biggest fear right now is becoming the girl who has to pair up with the teacher during volleyball because nobody chooses her. Honestly, the fact that someone even planted this fear into her head is hilarious. Still, she quickly recovers and smugly declares that even if the entire class abandons her, at least she will still have Sakaine beside her in loneliness. Sakaine rejects that role immediately because Bro refuses to become part of the social outcast duo speedrun. But then the atmosphere suddenly changes when a super cheerful girl appears out of nowhere and hugs Sakaine from behind like she has premium access to his personal space. She excitedly congratulates him on getting a girlfriend while acting shocked that he never mentioned it before. Meanwhile, Sakaine instantly starts panicking because this girl is apparently his only actual friend, and now Onigoroshi is standing right there watching everything unfold in real time. She immediately pulls a sword halfway out from her mysterious hidden storage like she is about to execute a traitor on the spot. According to her, Sakaine has committed the grave sin of cheating and violated their sacred alliance. Meanwhile, he is completely confused because he does not remember agreeing to any alliance in the first place. Things become even worse when Onigoroshi starts staring directly at the girl while struggling to describe her. Somehow, the words cute and little maiden accidentally slip out, and unfortunately, being called tiny deals critical emotional damage every single time. Still clinging to Sakaini, Toyoshiki introduces himself proudly as Sakaini's only friend. Sakaini immediately denies the accusation. According to him, they simply ended up going through elementary school, middle school, and high school together through pure, rotten luck. If anything, he considers Toyoshiki something closer to a suspicious acquaintance. Toyoshiki responds by informing everyone that Sakaini is exactly the kind of guy who could fail at making friends for his entire life. Honestly, considering the evidence, nobody in the room can even argue against it. Sakaini then casually reveals that he genuinely thought Toyoshiki was a girl until 3rd grade. Toyoshiki immediately enters emotional breakdown mode while loudly insisting he is definitely still going to grow taller someday. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi quietly watches the two of them bicker back and forth like idiots, and somehow she looks a little jealous. According to her, even if their relationship looks weird, Sakaini still has something that resembles a friend. Sakaini immediately corrects her again by downgrading Toyoshiki back to an acquaintance level. At this point, Toyoshiki is one insult away from crying for real. Then, Onigoroshi suddenly clenches her fist dramatically. Apparently, this entire conversation has awakened something inside her. If Sakaini can somehow obtain a strange little creature like Toyoshiki, then she, too, shall obtain friendship. And before anyone can stop her, Onigoroshi storms out of the classroom with full determination burning in her eyes like a hero beginning a dangerous quest arc. She declares that if things keep going like this, she is going to end up becoming one of those girls who get grouped with the leftover loners during school trips. Sakaini points that out immediately, but Onigoroshi completely ignores him. Instead, she announces that from now on she will approach friendship proactively. Unfortunately, the way she says proactive sounds less like social interaction and more like the start of a military operation. And then she spots a quiet girl peacefully reading a manga alone nearby. Before anyone can react, Onigoroshi suddenly slides behind the poor girl, hugs her tightly, and calmly threatens her to become friends with her. Toyoshiki instantly calls her an idiot, while Sakaini grabs Onigoroshi and drags her away at emergency speed before any teachers notice the situation. While escaping, he desperately tells her that threatening people is absolutely not how friendships are supposed to work. Onigoroshi, however, looks genuinely confused because, according to her logic, using force is exactly how she ended up dating him in the first place. The atmosphere instantly becomes awkward. Toyoshiki watches the two of them in complete disbelief before loudly declaring that they are overcomplicating friendship way too much. Apparently, making friends is actually easy. To prove it, he casually walks over to the same girl Onigoroshi nearly kidnapped 5 seconds earlier and starts chatting about the manga she was reading. Within moments, the two of them are happily nerding out over characters and laughing about wasting money on gacha rolls like old friends. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi and Sakaini stand nearby watching this horrifying display of normal human communication unfold in real time. After seeing Toyoshiki socialize that smoothly, Sakaini quietly starts wondering if that little gremlin might actually be his friend after all. Then he immediately rejects the idea. According to him, the two of them simply live in completely different worlds. Right on cue, Toyoshiki suddenly returns, while proudly announcing that he already got the girl's address. Sakaini congratulates him with visible concern for society, while beside him, Onigoroshi silently takes critical emotional damage. Her soul practically crumbles in real time after witnessing friendship happen that easily. According to her, the difficulty level of making friends is amazingly high. At this rate, she is apparently destined to become the tragic person who misses the 50th class reunion because nobody even remembered to invite her. The image is so strangely depressing that both Sakaini and Toyoshiki instinctively start feeling bad for her. After a brief silence, he gently pats her shoulder and tells her that if things are really that difficult, then he will help her practice making friends instead. Instantly, she looks up at him like he just said the coolest thing imaginable. The story suddenly takes a dramatic turn as Onigoroshi appears sitting on top of a building in an absolutely ridiculous ninja-style battle outfit. She announces that the battle between the two of them shall now commence. According to her, this is what humans call a date. And then the story rewinds to one day earlier at school. The moment Toyoshiki hears that the two of them are going outside together tomorrow, Bro instantly calls it what it obviously is. A date. Both Sakaini and Onigoroshi freeze like they just got exposed. Onigoroshi desperately tries explaining that they are merely going outside together at the same time to consume sweets. Sakaini backs her up immediately, insisting that this is simply fulfilling an earlier promise. Toyoshiki stares at them with absolute disappointment. According to the rest of humanity, that is literally called a date. The word date alone deals massive psychic damage to Onigoroshi. She instantly starts panicking while muttering something about needing to prepare her victory underwear. Nobody, including herself, seems to understand what that even means. Right in the middle of the chaos, the shy manga girl from earlier suddenly approaches Toyoshiki while nervously holding a pair of movie tickets. Apparently, her older brother gave them to her, but she has nobody to go with. The atmosphere instantly changes. After gathering all her courage, the shy girl invites Toyoshiki out. But instead of acting normal for once, Toyoshiki gets way too excited and suggests that everyone should just go together. Sakaini immediately senses disaster approaching, but before he can respond, Onigoroshi quietly grabs his sleeve and pulls him closer like she is protecting her territory. According to her, the two of them already have plans tomorrow. Sakaini awkwardly suggests that maybe Toyoshiki and the girl should just go by themselves instead. And somehow it works perfectly. The shy girl instantly brightens up and admits she technically invited other people too, but everyone else turned her down. So now it will just be the two of them together. Sakaini silently congratulates the still unnamed girl for somehow managing to tame that creature. Meanwhile, right beside him, Onigoroshi slowly turns red while trying to process the fact that tomorrow will officially be her very first date. After he confirms their meeting time in front of the station at 1 p.m., she immediately salutes him like a soldier receiving battle orders. And then the next day arrives. Normal people calmly walk around the station, minding their business. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi literally descends from above like a ninja assassin entering the battlefield. Sakaini instantly realizes his fears were justified. Not only did she arrive 2 entire hours early, but she also showed up wearing what looks like her ultimate combat outfit. According to her, it is the most stylish clothing she owns and her personal favorite. Apparently, the only ones who have ever seen it before are the Oni she defeated, which is somehow the least concerning part of this conversation. Then, after all that confidence, Onigoroshi suddenly gets nervous and quietly asks if she actually looks good in it. And for a second, Sakaini completely stops functioning because yeah, she absolutely does. Onigoroshi calmly inspects Sakaini's suggestion and agrees that he looks good in the outfit, but then immediately switches into critique mode. According to her, the outfit is too formal and lacks a casual feel. She suggests he would look even better in something more relaxed. Sakaini, trying to survive the conversation, suggests that something like home clothes would be fine. That's when things get weird again. Onigoroshi casually mentions that at home she's usually in a completely unarmed state, which immediately makes the conversation at the train station feel a bit too personal. She quickly adds that she does have normal clothes for going out, but refuses to wear them because she thinks the design is so ugly it offends her sense of style as an Oni hunter. Sakaini immediately gets curious because anything she calls ugly is probably dangerous in some way, so he asks to see it. Big mistake. Without hesitation, Onigoroshi activates some ridiculous secret Oni technique and instantly changes clothes on the spot like a magical girl animation glitching in real life. People walking by freeze. According to her, it is just a fast-changing technique from the Onigoroshi school. According to Sakaini's brain, it is public indecency to speedrun any percent. After the outfit change finishes right in front of him, Sakaini is left questioning how he ended up dating someone who treats public spaces like a training field. They arrive at the cafe and sit down to enjoy their sweets, but Onigoroshi immediately moves closer and sticks to him like a human shield. Sakaini glances around, already wondering why his date feels more like a bodyguard assignment. According to her, his position in life is right next to hers, so that is where he should always sit. Sakaini eventually gives up arguing because it feels pointless. While eating, he notices something strange. She enjoys the food with complete focus, like a final boss discovering dessert for the first time. He casually points out something on her cheek. Before he can react, she leans in and removes it in an unexpected way, leaving Sakaini completely frozen while she happily comments that the sweet taste is amazing. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Toyoshiki's outing gets cancelled because his new friend caught a cold, wiping out his perfectly planned social day in an instant. The scene shifts back to the time before Onigoroshi ever confessed to Sakaini. Back then, his life was still relatively normal. That day was the best day of his life because a new wave of Hakubitan merchandise had just dropped. Sakaini was walking through town carrying so many shopping bags, smiling like nothing in the world mattered except Hakubitan. He was completely focused on his merchandise and had no awareness of anything else, which naturally led to disaster. Out of nowhere, Onigoroshi ran straight into him at full speed, sending all the bags flying across the floor like a scene from an action game. A large Hakubitan plush landed on her face, blocking her vision completely, and she started panicking and apologizing non-stop while stumbling around. Sakaini quickly realized two things. First, this girl looked extremely suspicious, and second, she was holding one of his rare hungry Hakubi-tan masks. Before he could even react properly, she stared at the mask with sparkling eyes, said she liked it, and then immediately fainted on the spot. Later, after recovering, she awkwardly explains that she had only just arrived in town earlier that day and was supposed to attend school already. Unfortunately, she somehow spent the entire day wandering around without finding it once. Sakane slowly realizes she is wearing their school uniform. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi continues describing the city as if she had entered another dimension. Apparently, there are too many people everywhere. The streets make no sense, and the entire environment is so overwhelming that she is getting dizzy just existing in it. At that moment, Sakane quietly begins understanding something important. This terrifying Oni hunter girl is actually kind of hopeless. Seeing how exhausted she looks, Sakane gives her a drink to help her recover. Huge mistake. The moment she starts chugging it down at max speed, he realizes it's actually limited edition Hakubi-tan mineral water. Instant panic mode activates. Bro immediately snatches the empty bottle back like he's recovering classified evidence before she notices the label. Retrieval successful. Then he notices her scraped knee. Trying to help, he hurriedly puts a bandage on it before realizing way too late that it's also Hakubi-tan themed. Another emotional casualty. To hide the evidence, he sacrifices his own necktie and wraps it around her leg instead. Onigoroshi gets genuinely emotional over how kind he's being because apparently nobody has ever treated her this gently before. In response, she immediately tries handing over her entire savings account as repayment. When Sakane refuses, she awkwardly offers to repay him with her body instead. Meanwhile, her legs are visibly shaking because she's currently fighting for her life after drinking all that water. Finally, while trembling in absolute despair, Onigoroshi asks where the bathroom is. Sakane quickly points her toward a nearby store with a restroom inside. But before he can relax, Onigoroshi casually announces that she's already at her limit and might just handle the situation behind the building instead. But he immediately panics and grabs her into his arms before disaster can strike in public. Bro activates emergency gentleman mode at Mach speed. While sprinting toward the restroom, his brain completely short-circuits because her face is way too close to his. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi's heart is basically exploding from the situation. In her mind, this is no longer transportation. This is romance. Actual love event unlocked. A few moments later, they finally arrive in front of the restroom. She instantly breaks into tears, while Sakane realizes the situation is way worse than he imagined. And then, out of pure embarrassment, she immediately activates one of the legendary Onigoroshi school secret arts. Technique number 99, Oblivion. Right after casting it, she apologizes repeatedly before fleeing the scene at maximum speed while dying internally from shame. A short while later, Sakane just stands there completely confused because the memory wipe actually worked. He has absolutely no clue why he is standing in front of a restroom holding a giant Hakubi-tan plushie mask. Still, somewhere deep in his chest, it strangely feels like he just met someone important. But before he can think too hard about it, his brain instantly redirects toward the far more critical mission: buying the limited edition Hakubi-tan potato chips before they sell out. Priorities. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi quietly hides behind a nearby wall while watching him leave. Even though she never got the chance to learn his name, the encounter completely changes how she sees the human world. Until now, she was terrified of fitting in and planned to avoid standing out at all costs. But after meeting someone unexpectedly kind, she finally realizes maybe living among humans will actually be okay. After hiding behind the wall and watching the boy disappear into the city, Onigoroshi quietly decides that the human world might actually be a wonderful place after all. Somewhere deep inside, she becomes certain that one day, somehow, they will definitely meet again, and when that day comes, she will finally properly repay him for his kindness. Romantic music basically starts playing in her head at this point. After that, Sakane immediately arrives at his next battlefield, the Hakubi-tan merchandise store, and the moment he sees the giant sold-out sign, his soul completely leaves his body. The next day at school, the teacher introduces the mysterious transfer student and points her toward the only empty seat left in class. Unfortunately for Sakane, that seat happens to be right beside him. The moment Onigoroshi notices him sitting there, she freezes instantly. Meanwhile, Sakane has absolutely no idea why the new girl looks like she's about to self-destruct just from eye contact. Then, while trembling hard enough to cause a small earthquake, Onigoroshi quietly asks him to meet her behind the school building after class. Sakaini immediately panics, because in anime history, absolutely nothing good happens in such scenario. According to present-day Sakaini, that absurd misunderstanding is exactly how the two of them somehow ended up dating. Apparently, the story of how he remembers their first meeting is a completely different chaos arc for another time. Back to the moment when Onigoroshi enters the classroom, the entire atmosphere instantly changes. She stands in front of everyone with perfect posture. Then, in the most serious voice possible, she introduces herself as Onigoroshi Memiko, a descendant born into the legendary clan destined to destroy every Oni in existence. And right after dropping the most terrifying family lore imaginable, she casually adds that her hobby is collecting rocks. Then comes the finishing move. According to her, if anyone wishes to become her friend, they should apparently join her in slaughtering Oni together. The classroom immediately falls into complete silence. Nobody moves. Nobody breathes. One random classmate practically blue screens on the spot. Even Onigoroshi herself slowly starts panicking after realizing absolutely nobody reacted the way she expected. Apparently, someone told her this kind of self-introduction would make her instantly popular. The teacher immediately questions what kind of human being gave her that advice in the first place, before telling her to just sit down already. Meanwhile, Sakaini watches the entire disaster unfold from his seat while internally coming to one simple conclusion: a completely insane girl has definitely transferred into this class. Back in the present, he walks into the classroom and finds Onigoroshi tied to a chair with ropes, looking like she is in the middle of a hostage situation. The moment she sees him, she dramatically claims that the great Onigoroshi has been captured by an evil Oni and is facing her greatest crisis yet. Sakaini immediately offers to rescue her, but she quickly admits the whole thing is fake. The sudden switch hits him with complete emotional whiplash. Right after that, Onigoroshi suddenly falls into an existential crisis. After weeks of dating, she starts believing Sakaini must secretly think she is a total failure because of all her embarrassing moments. Flashbacks of her past mistakes hit her all at once like a highlight reel of disasters. Sakaini calmly hands her tissues while realizing she is at least self-aware about her chaos. Then she suddenly decides today will be different. She announces that she will prove her strength by escaping the ropes using her own power. Apparently, Toyomaru tied her up earlier as a challenge, which raises even more questions. Sakaini says it would be impressive if she succeeds. Onigoroshi then starts her escape attempt. The classroom watches as she violently struggles against the ropes, shaking the chair and creating complete chaos. It looks less like a technique and more like she is fighting the furniture itself. Even then, she keeps trying, and after a long struggle, she manages to pull out one of her technique cards using only her mouth. That part at least looks surprisingly impressive. Unfortunately, the teacher also notices the card hanging out of her mouth at the same moment. Truly terrible timing. Then, Onigoroshi proudly activates another legendary Onigoroshi school secret art. For one brief second, it genuinely feels like she is about to pull off something incredible. The card activates dramatically, the ropes shake, the chair tips over, and instead of escaping, she somehow nearly falls over while still completely tied to the chair. Complete disaster. Panicking, Onigoroshi immediately activates yet another forbidden technique. And then, in a single blink, she suddenly vanishes from the classroom entirely. Everyone freezes in shock. Even Sakaini has to admit that disappearing out of nowhere is actually insanely impressive. For a moment, the class genuinely believes they just witnessed some overpowered ninja skill straight out of a battle manga. Meanwhile, Sakaini instantly realizes the horrifying truth behind what actually happened. A little while later, after school ends, he finally tracks Onigoroshi down, finding her hiding near the bushes outside the school building. Before approaching her, he quickly calls out to her so she won't panic and tells her not to turn around. Apparently, her teleportation technique technically worked, except it also completely destroyed her outfit in the process. Peak Onigoroshi efficiency. Completely red-faced, she desperately tells him not to look, while reminding him that even though they are dating, she is absolutely not mentally prepared for him to see her like this yet. And somehow, despite the catastrophic situation, she still proudly asks whether her technique looked amazing or not. Meanwhile, Sakaini just quietly admits that yes, in multiple different ways, it absolutely was amazing. At this point, he realizes Onigoroshi is not really a loser at all. She is simply a completely broken cheat character whose abilities come bundled with the most disastrous side effects imaginable. The next morning, Sakaini walks toward school while watching couples casually holding hands like it is the most normal thing in the world. He quietly resents how peaceful and happy everyone looks. Then he remembers something important. He technically has a girlfriend now. Right after that thought, Onigoroshi suddenly appears beside him and grabs his hand without warning. Both of them instantly panic. Onigoroshi looks even more nervous than he is and awkwardly greets him, trying to act normal. She proudly explains that she used the blindfold of the Oni to conceal her presence, but Sakani points out that it only works on actual Oni, making it useless in normal daily life. He also wonders again how she keeps storing strange items in her clothes. Suddenly realizing they might be late, Onigoroshi immediately bolts towards school at full speed, leaving behind the chaos she just created as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, Sakani stands there completely stunned while slowly realizing something horrifying. Up until now, despite technically dating, the two of them have never actually held hands properly before. The moment he starts imagining it seriously, his brain instantly overloads. He starts panicking so hard he can barely think straight. A little later at school, Toyomaru casually greets him while questioning why he already looks like a demon first thing in the morning. But Sakani barely even hears him because across the classroom, Onigoroshi has been intensely staring at her own hand ever since arriving. Then she starts glancing toward his hand too, then back at hers, then back at his again. Sakani quickly realizes she is absolutely thinking about the hand-holding incident too. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi keeps silently squeezing her own hand while looking increasingly depressed for reasons she probably does not even understand herself. And the moment their eyes meet, things somehow become even worse. Now she is fully tracking his hand movements with laser-guided precision. Bro cannot move his fingers without feeling observed. Panicking under the pressure, Sakani instinctively jerks his hand backward to escape the situation and immediately ends up accidentally bumping into the teacher in a really awkward way. One devastating slap later, his entire soul exits his body before the first period even begins. After the lecture ends, Sakani quietly glances toward Onigoroshi again and immediately notices she still looks weirdly depressed. Ever since the accidental hand-holding incident this morning, her entire mood has clearly taken critical damage. Meanwhile, Sakani internally tries to convince himself that holding hands is completely normal. Totally ordinary, average couple behavior. Humanity has been doing it for centuries. No big deal whatsoever. After spending several full minutes losing a psychological battle against himself, he finally gathers enough courage to casually offer his hand to her. Or at least, that was the plan. Because the exact moment he awkwardly reaches out, Toyomaru's mystery friend suddenly appears standing right there beside him instead. Absolute worst timing imaginable. She instantly misunderstands the situation and starts yelling at him for trying to flirt with another girl despite already having Memeko as a girlfriend. Meanwhile, Sakani desperately tries explaining that this is all a misunderstanding and that he was merely practicing. Now the girl is screaming that he is a beast while actively fleeing the crime scene, and Sakani is forced to chase after her through the classroom while begging her to at least listen before accusing him of becoming a two-timing villain protagonist. And somehow, Onigoroshi watches this entire disaster unfold with sparkling eyes full of excitement. Apparently, she completely misunderstands the situation too, and assumes everyone has suddenly started playing some kind of game called Chase the Oni. Instead of helping, she enthusiastically asks if she can join because chasing people sounds fun. Sakani's mental stability continues collapsing in real time. Then, completely out of nowhere, Onigoroshi suddenly challenges him to arm wrestling. No build-up, no explanation, just immediate combat initiation. At first, Sakani thinks she is joking, but the moment their hands meet across the desk, he instantly realizes she is taking this insanely seriously. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi herself looks oddly happy just from the fact that their hands are touching at all. Sakani confidently declares that he will not hold back even if he is using his left hand. The atmosphere immediately turns intense, like some underground fighting tournament is about to begin. Meanwhile, Onigoroshi keeps tightening her grip while staring directly into his eyes with strong determination. Somewhere during the middle of this completely unnecessary arm wrestling match, Sakani slowly realizes something important. The match suddenly escalates into a full-scale battle of strength. Both of them start pushing with absurd intensity while the desk nearly collapses under the pressure. Onigoroshi keeps shouting random battle cries like she is fighting for the fate of humanity itself, while Sakani slowly realizes she is taking this way too seriously for absolutely no reason. In the end, after one final dramatic push, Onigoroshi successfully slams his hand down and declares herself the winner with maximum pride. The moment the match ends, though, all that confidence instantly disappears. She suddenly gets embarrassed while still holding his hand, and Sakani casually asks if she wants another round. At first, she tries acting tough and declares she will defeat him again too. But halfway through talking, she accidentally blurts out that she has always wanted to hold Sakani's hand. The second she realizes what she just admitted, Onigoroshi immediately panics and desperately begs him to forget everything. Meanwhile, Sakani's brain quietly explodes in the background. Later that day, after school finally ends, Onigoroshi cheerfully suggests they walk home together for a while. but instead of answering immediately, Sakani just keeps silently walking ahead of her. Onigoroshi follows a few steps behind while carefully stepping exactly where he stepped, almost like she is tracing his path on purpose. Then, after awkwardly struggling with himself for several seconds, Sakani slowly reaches his hand backward toward her without even turning around. Onigoroshi freezes for a moment before nervously grabbing his hand back, and just like that, the two of them finally start walking home together like an actual normal couple for once. No Oni battles, no ropes, no accidental public disasters. Just pure wholesome vibes somehow surviving this manga. While holding his hand, Onigoroshi quietly admits she has wanted to do this ever since the beginning. Then, she suddenly looks down at his palm and enters full panic mode. Apparently, the Onigoroshi clan has practiced palm reading for generations, and according to her analysis, Sakaine's lifeline is amazingly short. Now she starts violently shaking his hand while acting as if he has already been diagnosed with death flags. Then Onigoroshi compares it to her own palm and proudly announces that her lifeline is super long instead. Unfortunately, she somehow turns this into an emotional confession too, because according to her, she wants both of them to live long, happy lives together. At that point, Sakani quietly promises he will try his best not to die anytime soon, which somehow sounds way more romantic than it should. But naturally, the wholesome atmosphere survives for only 3 more seconds. She starts casually analyzing the rest of his palm lines and somehow uncovers the horrifying truth that he apparently wet the bed until 3rd grade. Sakani instantly enters panic mode again after realizing this girl can apparently read ancient childhood trauma directly from his hands.
Here I am, know it's been a while.